Welcome back to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. I am Roger. I had 5 concepts that I started from scratch over a 23-year period, and I learned some things about systemizing my business, working on my business, not in my business. I thought I'd share some of the things that made me super successful. The bottom line is this: these are the most challenging times running a very difficult business in the most difficult of times. And yes, labor is a concern, shrinking margins are a concern, competition, and all of those things. But I do believe there are 3 fundamentals to any successful business, and I'm going to cover those today. And I'm going to tell you what I did and how you can do it too. You want to, 1, make more money in your restaurant. That goes without saying. You want a reliable team that you can count on as well. And you want an army of loyal customers, repeat business, people that are raving fans for your business. Most of all, don't you want the satisfaction and the pride of running something that is yours, that you believe in, that your team believe in, and that your guests are, like I said, fans of your business? And it just makes you so fulfilled when those guests walk in the door and they're having great experiences in your restaurant and your team are just running on all cylinders and there's a team chemistry and a culture in place. That made all the difference for me. I believe those 3 fundamentals are: number 1, cost controls and maximizing profit. I'm going to go over each of them one by one, but cost controls and maximizing profit is super, super important. Leadership, accountability, and training your team every single day. I was obsessed with training. I was also obsessed with profits and squeezing every nickel of profit out of my business. And then what I call marketing firepower. I like the word affinity, which I define as a very powerful sense of loyalty or belonging, where people just say, this is my place, this is where we go. They treat us special. We're VIPs. We love the food. We love the ambiance. We love the service. Everything has what I call wow factor. That is a powerful formula. So those are the 3 fundamentals, and we're going to take them one by one. Okay, let's talk numbers first of all. You absolutely must take inventory. I travel across the country. I speak at major restaurant and food shows, and I do talk to lots of restaurants. A lot of people think inventory is just placing next week's order. You may have heard me say that 100 times, but I really believe it is so vitally important to take a regular inventory, which means calculating the true value of your food and your beverage on hand at any given time. I believe you should do it every single week for a minimum of 4 weeks to reach what I call your sweet spot, okay, where you're optimizing your resources. You have very low waste or spoilage. You have virtually no theft at all. And basically, your food costs are solid. Your beverage costs are solid. Once you do that, then and only then I recommend you going to a 30-day inventory period, because let's face it, you could be losing money every single day after day, week after week, and then 30 days later, wow, your food cost is through the roof. Your bottom line in your bank account isn't growing. You're like, what happened here? You got to take inventory. Why? Because you got to calculate your true food and beverage costs. Then you also need to track your labor costs every single week and find what I call your sweet spot. I used to track labor 2 ways: the overall payroll, okay, divided by overall sales. But then I also did the kitchen, because the kitchen wages these days are the highest ever. So you must track your labor and find what your sweet spot is and zero in on that. Now, I've got tools and templates that I'm going to tell you about, a turnkey system called the Academy. More on that later. So we're talking about tracking inventory, cost of goods, and labor. Now, prime cost is misunderstood, but that is the most vital telltale of whether or not your restaurant is making a decent profit. And it's a formula. It's essentially the sum total of your food, beverage, and labor cost expressed as a percentage. And the benchmark, they say, the sweet spot there is somewhere between 50 to 55% and not higher. Let me explain what that means. For every dollar that comes in the door in sales, you want no more than 50 or 55 cents to go to food, beverage, and labor costs, which leaves, what does that leave? 50% or 45% to pay all your other expenses. 45 cents on every dollar of sales now has to pay your lease or your mortgage and your property tax if you owned it, and all the other expenses, the linens, the landscaping, the dumpster in the parking lot, the utilities, the insurances, and it goes on and on. You get the idea. So they say if you've got a prayer of making money, you need to monitor your prime costs, and you need to keep it no higher than 55% or 55 cents of every dollar of sales goes to food, beverage, and labor. That's prime cause to find, okay? That is super, super important. Now, let's talk about a real needle mover. Now, I have a tool in the academy called the Menu Profit Accelerator. What's that? Again, I coach restaurants personally. If you need help, reach out to me, Roger, R-O-G-E-R, restaurantrockstars.com. I do love coaching personally, helping restaurants succeed. But let's get back to this menu profit thing. I've coached many restaurants, and I asked them, one, have you costed out your menu? And if they've done it, they're not using the data, but a lot of them have never costed out their menu. And the markets are volatile and prices are increasing, and you can't control what you pay your suppliers for food, but you can control your menu profit. So case in point, imagine you have menu categories. Every menu has categories. You've got appetizers. Some restaurants call them starters. You've got soups and salads, perhaps burgers and sandwiches, pizzas maybe, entrees, of course, desserts, of course. These are all categories. Imagine you haven't costed out your menu and you have absolutely no idea what it costs you in terms of ingredients for any given item you sell a customer, but you randomly assign a price to it and you hope for the best. But the biggest kicker is the profit difference between menu items in each category can be many dollars. And in most cases, you're likely to be selling your most popular items, not your most profitable items. And those popular items that are low profit items are taking sales away from what you want to sell, what you could be selling, your highest profit items. But you wouldn't know any of this unless you costed out your menu and then you knew which items were the most profitable in every category. Now, I have a template for this as well, and it's turnkey. You plug in all the information. We teach you how to cost out your menu accurately. We teach you how to rank them from most profitable to least profitable. You plug everything into the template, and literally when you press the go button, it'll show you where you're losing money every day, your popular items versus your most profitable items. But it ranks them in terms of the most profitable to the least profitable and how much money you could be losing in every menu category. So to end this, I've coached with 3 restaurants recently, 2 busy lunch and dinner places. They were about just under 3 million in sales, actually 2.8 and 2.95 million in sales. A decent business, right? They each lost a potential profit last year in excess of $350,000 for that very reason. Their lower profit items were the most popular in every category, stealing sales every day for lunch, every day for dinner. $350,000 left on the table. What an eye-opener. It hits these owners like a ton of bricks. Most recent restaurant, 5-location pizzeria chain, okay? And they had an extensive pizza menu with like 13 or 14 different specialty pizzas on it, and they lost money primarily because the most popular seller was, of course, the cheese pizza, but it was also the least profitable pizza they were selling based on their pricing on the menu. And every time they sold one, and they sold 70,000 of these things over the course of a year, every time they sold the cheese pizza, they lost anywhere from $2 and change up to over $8 and change from all the other pizzas on the menu that were more profitable to sell. Bottom line, across the entire menu, and I'm talking their appetizers, their sandwiches and their wraps, their desserts, and their pizzas, $885,000 in potential lost profit left on the table. So again, the Menu Profit Accelerator will really be an eye-opener for you. It's a way to stop the bleeding if you have this problem. And then we teach you, what do you do to stop the bleeding immediately? How do you immediately impact your bottom line and increase profitable sales? We teach you how to do that too. So that is a huge needle mover. Let's switch over to labor. Now, I'm a huge believer in recruiting, not hiring. Now, anybody can put a sign up on the window. Sometimes they're banner signs. It's like I drive down any Restaurant Street USA and I still see now hiring. Burger King is paying $18 an hour to start where I live. Okay, and you're competing against this, but that's hiring. And even if you do get someone in the door, are you getting what I call an A player? Or are you getting someone else's headache that didn't work out in their last job, that's just a paycheck collector that really doesn't care about your business, doesn't care about your restaurant, doesn't care about quality, doesn't care about teamwork or respect? And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there like that, and you don't want to hire these people. Instead, you want to recruit people. And recruiting means every business, I believe, every restaurant has at least one hopefully more, what I call A players. You wish you had 20 more of these people. I used to ask them whenever I opened a new restaurant, I went to these A players and I said, who do you know that might not be satisfied in their current job? Who isn't treated with respect? And who works in a place where there's no teamwork, there's no recognition rewards, it's just a job? You bring me these people and I'll give you $100 for a referral if that person lasts 60 days. And then I'm going to give that person, the new recruit, $100 after they've passed their 60 days. But in the meantime, we're going to train these people. We're going to show them that we have an amazing culture, that we care about them. We're going to give them a voice and give them an opinion and give them empowerment and new responsibilities if they want it. We're going to give them a real chance to move up. And that was all the success for me. That made all the difference because my team was the foundation of my business. That's recruiting. So it all starts there. So it's really important to do this. Now, I heard of a genius idea. I didn't think of this. If you've got a labor shortage or a challenge right now, I learned this years ago during the pandemic or just after the pandemic. There is a restaurant chain in California. They've got 28 locations. They're open breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Times 28. Think about how many staff they need. They had a challenge. They came up with the brilliant idea of giving gift cards to their best guests for a referral of a new team member that lasted 60 days. I think the gift cards were like $250. It's pennies on the dollar. It's essentially your food cost. If you've got a 30% food cost, it's 30 cents on the dollar. It's not $250. It's genius. And they fully staffed their restaurants. And I think they're still doing it today whenever they need someone. So think about that. That is one solution to the labor challenge that many restaurants are having. Once you've got people, you need to create a company culture internally. You need to give them reasons why they want to contribute to your business. I call that empowerment. I have to ask, are you a true leader or are you a manager? Do you delegate or do you empower? There's a difference there. I hate the word delegation. Anyone can tell someone what to do or how to do it. But when you empower someone, they don't want to let you down. They want to rise to challenges. And you need to recognize talent in your people. And that's being a true leader. When you recognize someone that just has that spark, that passion, they want to do more than they're doing. They want to please. They just love being part of a winning team. Those are the people that you can empower to become what I call intrapreneurs in your business. Those people that own it and run it like they owned it, okay? They take a special interest in your business. And that to me was always an exit strategy. I mentioned I worked on my business. I didn't work in it. I was a customer in my restaurant. I was really into the finances and the training and marketing. Those were my passion projects, but I wasn't tied to my business 24/7. I wasn't tied to any of those restaurants, again, because of the systems. Let's talk about labor abuses, the flip side of that. And these are seemingly innocent, but you got to be aware of it because your labor costs, as long as we're talking about food, beverage, and labor costs, a long time ago, I noticed that of 55 employees in my biggest restaurant, I was looking at the schedules and I was doing the payroll. At first, I wasn't actually processing the payroll, but I would report the hours to my payroll company. I noticed that of those 55 or 60 people, I had about 28 or 30 of them who were punching in early, anywhere from 5 minutes to as much as 12 or 15 minutes early. So I decided to watch. So what were they doing? They'd come in the door. The first thing they do is go to the point of sale system and type in, they'd clock in, of course, and then go in the bathroom and they'd put on their makeup in front of the mirror. And then they'd go to the bar and get a soda. And then they'd chit chat with their friends. You get the idea. And then they would go to work when the schedule said they were supposed to be there. But they punched in 12 or 13 minutes to do all that, times 28 or 30 people, day in, day out, week in, week out. I figured that was costing me hundreds of dollars a week in my biggest restaurant. And it's probably happening to you. So you got to watch these things. We put a system in place to stop that. We treated our people great. Again, we gave them a voice. We had recognition rewards. We had team spirit. But I couldn't stand having lost productivity and efficiency. So I put a system in place to stop that. That's in the academy as well. Okay, this can cost you lots and lots of money depending on how many employees you have. Another really powerful thing, do you know what is called your daily break-even number? What does it cost you to put your keys in the door, open it up, put the lights on, have food in the walk-in, your team ready to serve customers, whether you serve 5 customers or 500 customers that day, there is a break-even amount. And how do you determine this? You don't have to be an accountant, but it's basically putting together a list. Now, everybody's got files, everybody's got invoices. Maybe you got a bookkeeper, an office manager. Maybe you're doing this yourself. You have to put together a list of your fixed and variable costs on a monthly basis. Let me define the two. A fixed cost is something that you have to pay every single week, every single day, every single month, whether your restaurant is open 7 days a week, it's open 2 days a week, or it's closed. Those are fixed costs. Those are things like the lease on your property or the mortgage, of course, and the property taxes and the equipment leases and the insurance, okay? The phone, the internet, the dumpsters. It's a laundry list of things. Those are your fixed costs. On the flip side, the variable costs are those expenses that vary by the number of hours and days you're open. Okay, your cost of goods is different if you're open 7 days a week versus 2 days a week. Your payroll clearly is different whether you're open 7 days a week or 3 or 5 days a week. You get it. Your utilities, your electricity, all those things. Those are the variable costs. So imagine you just put all those things together, a list of fixed costs and variable costs on a 30-day basis, and then you divide by 30 because more months have 30 than 31 days, and that gives you your break-even amount. It might be $2,000. It might be $5,000. It depends on the size of your restaurant. But what does that tell you? That means on a Sunday or a Monday or a Tuesday, your slowest days, consistently, if you're not hitting that $2,000 or more every single slow day, you're going to lose less money by closing your restaurant and giving your team the day off than actually being open and serving 5 guests. And that is proven to be true. So that is an important exercise. Again, it's a template in the academy. All right, let's shift gears. Let's talk about the empowerment piece and the intrapreneurs. And we all know what an entrepreneur is, right? An entrepreneur is someone like yourself, perhaps, who took a big risk to start a business in the hopes of making a profit. An intrapreneur is someone that applies that same approach to the business, even though they don't own it. They want to take on more responsibility. They want to rise up in your organization. They want to feel responsible. They don't want to let you down. And that is a very powerful thing. So you want intrapreneurs that are empowered. You don't want employees that are delegated to. All right. And again, it's a system. All right. What is the key to leadership? I ask questions on the road. When I'm speaking at these food and restaurant shows, I talk to lots of restaurants and I ask them, okay, do you set clear expectations and do you have accountability? And they usually say, how do I do that? Why do people not show up on time? Why are they calling in sick? Why is their performance good sometimes, but it's not consistent? And sometimes they're just off. And I'm constantly babysitting. Okay, that happens way too often in this business. And again, it comes down to expectations. Do they know what those expectations are? Have you clearly communicated them? And 2, do you have accountability for every single position in your restaurant? How do you do that? It all starts with most businesses, yours included, might call it a job description. I've always called it a career description. Okay, because I never wanted my people to think of their position as just a job. Oh, I'll do this for a couple of months and then I'll move on to something else. No, I wanted them to think of this as a career. I had multiple restaurants. I was buying other restaurants. I was going to give them opportunities to move up. This is one business. You don't need a college education to rise. You can own your own restaurant if you learn and have a passion for this business. And I created more than one new restaurant owner just by mentoring them and training them. And that's a beautiful thing. Okay, there's a lot of pride that goes into that. Okay, so the career description, there's a template in the academy for that, that'll ensure accountability, that will empower your team, will give them new opportunities, will give you ideas of what they can do and how you can incentivize them to achieve great performance. All right. Let's switch gears again. Sales are the lifeblood of your business. You know this. But are you maximizing opportunities or do you have order takers on the floor? Again, when I travel, I eat in a wide variety of restaurants and I sit down and 9 times out of 10, I might get a personable, friendly person, but they're just the order taker. They got the pad and pen in hand or they commit it to memory and they take my order and they bring the food and they give me the check at the end of the meal. And to me, that was always an ordinary experience. I wanted to deliver extraordinary experiences in my restaurants. I wanted to train my people every single day so that they knew their menus inside and out. They knew my restaurant inside and out. They could tell people intelligently about what we all knew the guests would enjoy and appreciate. And what happened? It doubled and tripled my sales year on year. I created this program, this training program called Sales Stars. And it's a video series, right? It's a really powerful video series also in the Academy. And it includes 30 days of pre-shift exercises that are no more than 5 minutes each, but they're strategy sessions, and you will see your sales will rise. But more importantly, it's not just for servers and bartenders. It's for your entire front of house team. If you got a food truck or a quick serve counter place, everyone who interacts with a guest should know their menus inside and out, should know what your hook. I'll talk more about that later, and should really deliver amazing experiences with suggestions at every stage of the meal. And that's what gives guests a great experience, and that's also what raises your check averages. Super, super. Okay, that's called Sales Stars. It's in the Academy. All right. Let's talk marketing. I see so many restaurants that experiment with their marketing. They're throwing thousands of dollars out the window on non-trackable marketing because it's an experiment. Oh, we've never done that. Let's try it. Maybe it'll work. And unless you can track where the business is coming from, you'll never know if there's a return on that investment. More than likely, you might be losing money on it. Okay, whether that's a radio commercial or whether that's some kind of print ad in a magazine, or people are trying to sell us things all the time. You know this. People walk in the back door of your restaurant all the time with no appointments. The phone rings off the hook. I talk about this all the time because this happened in my restaurants for 20 plus years. And sometimes someone talks a good game and they're like, wow, radio commercial. I've never tried that. Let's do it. And it costs you $5,000. But unless everybody walks through the door and says, hey, Sam, hey, Sally, I came in your restaurant because I heard you on the radio, which never happens, you'll never know if that $5,000 was worth it or if you even got a return on it. Instead, you need trackable marketing programs where you know where the business is coming from. And I have several proven marketing ideas that did just that. I learned a long time ago that it's more cost effective to market to your best customers, your raving fans, I call them guests, okay, than it is to constantly look for new guests all the time. Think how much money that costs to try to keep finding new guests, which of course you'd like. It's more cost effective to have brand ambassadors, people that are raving fans of your business, that that recommend your place, that leave you positive online reviews, that tell everyone they know you got to go to this place because everything about it is wow. The service is wow. The food is wow. The atmosphere, the ambiance, that's my place. Okay. That's called developing influencers and even creating strategic alliances. I did that with great success. And what does that mean? That means I went into my local community and I identified high traffic businesses where lots of, again, customers, guests, call them what you will. I call them guests. Lots of people were coming into those businesses every single day. I'd sit in parking lots and just watch the cars pull in, watch the customers going in and out of the place. And then I approached those people and I developed relationships with them and I incentivized them to send me new business. Unbelievable what this would do. I called it a cash cow. I gave away cash cows. And that was something that cost very little to serve. It had wow factor, high perceived value by the guest, and I gave people back trade every dollar they sent in. That is how you build raving fans and new guests coming in that then become raving fans that are repeat guests and loyalty. Okay. Again, we talked about internal marketing. What does that mean? You walk inside the doors of your restaurant and there's lots of walls and there's lots of opportunities. There's maybe giant chalkboards where you can market all your hooks and all the most important things that set you apart from the competition. That's what you want to do. You want to have common areas. You want to have your front of house team, anyone that interacts with a guest, making these recommendations. That's internal marketing. That is so much more powerful than advertising and doing all this stuff outside your business. That is just super powerful. All right. I believe that you can't have too many hooks. You know what a hook is. A hook is something that is unique, special, and different about what you do, your way of doing business, a special menu item, something that captures the guest's imagination where the phones come out and they're taking pictures and they're posting it to social media. Hopefully those are also cash cows. Again, those things with the high perceived value that cost you very little to serve that are pure profit to sell. Those two things are combined. A hook is a cash cow and a cash cow can be a hook. And you need to promote these everywhere inside your restaurant and watch sales and profits rise. You can't have too many hooks. You can't have too many cash cows. All right. I'm going to tell you now about the biggest marketing needle mover I've ever seen. If you sell draft beer, if you have a coffee shop, it is called a mug club. You've seen these mug clubs. If you go into a sports bar, you see the big colorful mugs hanging over the bar. Not everybody knows that is a cash cow in and of itself because people will pay you a membership, an annual membership fee. It can be $50, it can be $100 just to belong to this exclusive club where they feel special. We all know that the standard pint in a restaurant, that pint glass that everyone pours a draft beer into, that's what most guests in restaurants drink their beer out of, a pint glass, right? The mugs have 4 extra ounces of beer. They're these big, beautiful ceramic mugs. They look special. They feel special. Anyone that owns a mug and has a membership feels that much more exclusive, that much more of a VIP over the regular guests that come in. You can sell the memberships, okay? Let's talk about empowerment. So long ago, I empowered my bar leader, the guy that ran my bar for decades, right? He did a great job. He was a really strong marketer. He could talk to anybody. He was a really efficient guy. I empowered him to start a mug club one day. I said, you know what? I want to start a mug club. I didn't tell him how to do it. I just said, go do it. That was empowerment. Go figure it out. And I'm going to give you an incentive for every mug you sell. So we brought in 25 of these big, beautiful ceramic mugs. And just to see what would happen, he literally sold them out in the first day or day and a half. Okay. So we ordered more mugs and he sold those out. And what happened very soon was we started giving VIP service. We had a big bell behind the bar that would ring. Every bartender would bing every time a mug club member walked in because we got to know these people on a first name basis. My bartenders got to know what their favorite beer was that they drank in their mugs. And every time somebody walked in, the bell would ring. The bartenders pulled their mug and poured their favorite beer before the person even got to the bar. That was VIP service. Think about the exclusivity and how important people feel when they're recognized and they're acknowledged and they're served. That was super powerful. And you might think that making $100 a mug is a lot of money. And if you build your club to as big as my bar leader grew the club, when I sold that restaurant in 2014, that original 25 mugs, he had sold 1,200 of those mugs. And there was literally no more room. They were over the bar, hundreds of mugs over the bar, hundreds of mugs behind the bar and on the sidewalls and on the shelves. They were freaking everywhere. That turned out to be about $70,000 in free and clear cash flow every single year, $70,000. And it was free and clear because we got a sponsor to put their logo on the mugs. And then the sponsor bought the mugs, so there was no cost to us. And the sponsor bought the custom t-shirts with the Mug Club logo on the back and the year and all that kind of stuff, the exclusivity, the VIP stuff that the Mug Club members got for their membership. All we had to do was give them great service, recognize them, and collect the cash. You might think that's a big deal, 70 grand. What could you do with an extra 5, 10, 20, 30, $50,000 in your restaurant? You could do a lot of damage with that. But the kicker is this. We quickly realized that those people that used to come into our bar or restaurant maybe twice a month, maybe 3 times a month if we were lucky, were now in our place 3 days, 4 days a week. And they're buying the food and they're drinking the beer and they're buying the retail merchandise and all this kind of stuff. It was huge. Okay, that was the kicker. Repeat business, loyalty. The Mug Club members sold the other friends' Mug Club memberships and family, and it just grew and grew. And that was our brand army of ambassadors that were huge fans, raving fans of our business. And then we had a photo contest and we gave away huge prizes for people buying our retail merchandise. And we framed them and hung them on the wall. And then people would come in to show their friends the photo that they submitted. And our suppliers donated these amazing prizes because we bought lots of merchandise. We bought lots of food and beverages from these people. Our suppliers were loyal for years. You don't ask, you don't get. This was powerful marketing also. These are all things that you can do in your business to boost revenue, boost sales, train a dream team staff. Super powerful stuff. The bottom line, the point I'm making is you need to work on your business, not in it. They say you've got a system if you can walk away from your restaurant for a day, a week, or a month. And when you come back, it's just as successful, just as profitable, if not more so, because you empowered your team to greatness and they ran the place like they owned it and had to pay for it. You can trust them to use their good judgment. That to me was an exit strategy. That could be your exit. More free time to spend with friends and family, to open another business, to franchise, to do whatever you want to do because you've got a team that has your back. You can't put a price on that, okay? That is just too powerful. That is empowerment right there. Create these entrepreneurs that I call intrapreneurs in your business and incentivize them to run your business. Okay. Free time. Think of the satisfaction and the pride that you would have in your business if it ran like this, like clockwork, and your team had your back and ran the place. Let me tell you about the Academy. The Academy is a series of training systems, okay? It's all those fundamentals. It's the cost controls and maximizing profit, everything I talked about. It's leadership templates and it's accountability. How do you maintain the accountability? How do you set expectations? How do you incentivize people? Recognition and rewards programs, all these things that build the dream team staff and the company culture. It's the cost control and profit piece. It's the leadership and staff training piece. It's the marketing firepower and affinity and the loyalty piece, all the mug club, how to start a mug club, everything I talked about. If you're just starting your first restaurant, it's literally everything you would need to know to open the doors to that first place and then run it profitably. The best part about the Academy is the empowerment piece. We have a feature that allows you to assign any lesson in the Academy to any team member, any and all team members. Unlimited number of people in your restaurants or multiple restaurants can now use the Academy to learn a piece of your business, learn how to run it, take on that piece, and what the incentives are for doing a great job. And you can track their progress all from your personal dashboard. Now, that's really powerful. This is a tremendous amount of ROI. I told you about the menu profit accelerator, where people found hundreds of thousands of dollars that they didn't know that they were losing, that I showed them. That was huge. The mug club, tens of thousands of dollars in memberships. How do you do it? We're talking about all this information, and it's just $59 a month at restaurantrockstars.com. No risk guarantee, cancel anytime, no long-term contracts. I've been in this business for 30 years, and the Academy is everything I've learned about maximizing profit, building a dream team staff, having trackable marketing that just printed money. Check it out. Hey, it's Roger. I'm still here. Hey, did you ever see that movie, that classic movie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off? You know, that is one of the all-time funnest movies ever. I've seen it multiple times. But if you ever stay to the end of a movie where the credits are rolling and they're just giving credit to all the people that worked on the movie, some people are still sitting in their movie seats. The funniest thing about that movie is at the very end, when the credits stop rolling after minutes and minutes and minutes, Ferris comes back on, big screen, sticks his face in, and he says, "Hey, you're still here? What are you doing here?" Well, if you're still here, I want to thank you very much for listening to the podcast. Our guests, our audience mean a lot to us. And our main goal with the podcast, obviously, is to deliver immediately actionable ideas and information and guests that'll help you run a stronger, more profitable restaurant. So if you like what you're hearing, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast player. It'll help other industry professionals just like yourself find us. And if you have any ideas for a new episode or something you'd like me to cover, please drop me a line, Roger, R-O-G-E-R, at restaurantrockstars.com. Or if you got a specific challenge or pain point, email me. I'm glad to answer. Maybe we'll work together. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.